Hey folks, Baxel here. I'm by no means a movement god, but I do think I've learnt a thing or two about movement and Deadlock so far, and I might just be able to teach you one or two things that can be beneficial for you in your game. So what you're seeing right now is just some clips of me utilising movement in one way or another to help try and elevate my gameplay. I'm very aware it's not the best gameplay, but you get the point. Realistically, if you go onto any basic movement guide, you're going to find loads and loads of really useful information about how to improve your movement around the map and what have you. But for me personally, I think there are a few little key extras that are important, and it mainly revolves around how to implement the more advanced movement techniques into your gameplay and how to be aware of them to make sure that you are getting the most out of your movement and then optimizing just your overall gameplay as a result. So what I mean by this is, for example, if you're looking at an advanced movement guide, a lot of them out at the moment, I will credit one or two people here because they are fantastic guides, but what I see is a lot of them are just simply covering the options for movement tech and then not showing how to implement them fully. So what I'm trying to do with this video is give you some ideas and examples of where that movement has been used and how you can use it yourself to make sure that you're getting the most out of your game. Apologies for the long-winded intro there, but what we're going to cover first is the three core areas that I would consider advanced movement tech that's important to understand to make sure that you're able to sort of do everything you want to do in the game. I think anything beyond these three is very niche and specific and is where other resources that detail all of the possible movement tech is very useful. So I would recommend going and having a look at those when you do find that everything I've covered in this video is no longer really useful for you and you're already implementing. But to me, these are the core areas that you can utilize to sort of knowledge gap your opponents, get nice escapes, and get really fast rotates out. Okay, so just to brush up on some key important movement tech that we need to be aware of, there are three main things that we should be focusing on for practical movement. One of which is air strafing, and the other two are corner boosting, and of course wall bounces and how they can be used in tight and awkward spots. So this here is a corner boost. This one specifically along this rail, you need to melee and jump together whilst moving into the rail. And that will get you a reliable way to set up for the corner boost on this railing. Now what a corner boost is basically when you fall off something, you get pushed forwards a little bit by an invisible hitbox. And that's like the corner of the object's hitbox. So all we're doing is we're landing a wall bounce on that corner. And I don't know how it works exactly, but the way I like to think about it is it's kind of like you're wall bouncing off of two surfaces at once, which is why you get that extra height that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. So on the signs, it's really simple because you just wait for your ankles to fall past the top and then engage the wall bounce. Another way to sort of help with thinking about it is if you look straight down when you mantle, you'll see when you're getting nudged. And then if you just do that a couple times in a row and sort of remember that timing of sort of mantle, nudge, mantle, nudge, and then you start looking for that wall bounce when you feel like you're going to get nudged forwards, and you will get it. It is quite simple once you understand how it works and the fundamentals of it. It just takes a little bit of practice, and of course you can slow this video right down and have a look at my inputs on screen. They should be around here. You can see exactly what I'm doing and when I'm doing it, and slow it right down. So like I say for this one as well, just make sure you're in motion when you approach this, because sometimes if you're like right up next to it and you're trying to do it, it won't push you over, it'll get you stuck on it, it can be a bit awkward. But if you just do it in one fluid motion of sort of walking towards it, and then practicing, and then again walking towards it, see, there we go. So we got stuck that time. I think as well, camera angle is important. So if I do it on a diagonal, I'll end up on top of it. And same for here, if I try and mantle whilst looking at it on a diagonal, I will end up standing on it instead of falling off of the edge. Because the important thing to remember with the signs is you want to let go of that forwards key in order to fall off the other end. But if you're on that diagonal, you won't do that. Okay, so then we go on to air strafing. So if we use a vent, this is a great way to show what air strafing does. So this vent, both take us to this buff. But what we can do is we can go onto the vent and we can hold our left or right key and we can slowly move the mouse in the same direction. So here I'm I'm moving left with my A key, and I'm going to move my mouse left also. If you do it in one smooth motion, you can actually get to here, to this little juke corner. This is great for if you're trying to be sneaky and get a buff whilst you're behind, for example. It's really hard to predict somebody coming from there. Or it's just great to juke people, right? Because these vents can be used as an escape from, if I can get through this window. If you're shooting this walker here, say for example, you're really committing to it, you want to get the kill on the walker, you can come over here, you can kill it, and you know it's about to die, you can jump over the top and dash here, and then they're chasing you, they're using all their stamina, you can use a dash jump, or just an air dash, sorry, would be best. Let's try that again. So we just do air dash here, maybe another dash, and that's like 3 stamina used basically. You get to this vent, and then if we air strafe away, and then we hide in here, if they're really going to chase and commit because they're ahead, you'll see them walk past, and then you can go into the shop, teleport away, or wherever else you please, right? So that's a nice simple example of sort of when air strafing is going to really knowledge gap your opponents. Because if they don't know how to air strafe, they're not even going to be able to follow you into that juke corner, let alone be aware that that's a jump that you can make. So even if they do see you, what they're going to do with the vent is probably end up on this bridge, and you can see them on this bridge, and then act accordingly, right? Okay, so that's air strafing covered. Another good example around this area for when this is useful is it gets you into the shop, which is really nice, and that leads us on to wall bouncers as well. Okay, our last point here for the movement tech that needs to be covered is actually a cop-out, because it's 2 things. The first one is basic wall bounces. So these can be used in awkward spots where you have a fundamental understanding of how you need to use the wall bounce in order to get more use out of each piece of movement you do. For example, say we've just used that vent and we've air strafed over here and we're sliding down here, we approach this corner of the wall. If we just wall bounce it, we're going to bump our head. But if we use our A and forwards key, our A and W key at the same time, we can wall bounce diagonally up and out of this square here in the ceiling. Nice and simple. So that doesn't use any stamina. And similarly, if you're in the shop, if you just hold the W down, you're going to bump your head on there. You're not going to be able to achieve it. And just get rid of the superior stamina quickly, just to prove the point that it is possible without. You're just going to bump your head. But if you let go of the W key, just after you've done the wall bounce holding the W key, you'll be able to mantle the sledge. Like so. So again, you've used no stamina to get out of that shop. And what this enables us to do is to think about sort of what keys we're pressing, when we're pressing them, and how to utilise those wall bounces as best as possible to get nice little escapes, and also to throw off our opponents a little bit. For example, if we're approaching, let me just level up so I don't die. So if we're approaching this area here, it's quite common to run away this way. Instead of just going in a straight line here to trying to get to safety, what we can do instead is we can take this corner as tight as possible so that we're out of line of sight from somebody who's chasing us as quickly as possible, and then just wall bounce off here to get up to this bridge. Now all of a sudden, the path that we've taken is much more complex for the enemy to follow, and then for example, we can just use a dash jump, then maybe an air dash here, make it over this ledge, poorly I might add, and then we're away, right? So that's what I mean by using the tech in a more advanced way to make sure that we're eking out those tiny little percentile gains and just thinking about sort of where we are and how we can use the basic movement tech in a slightly more proficient way. So just lastly, all we need to cover is how to use zip lines. The zip lines have a few key features to them that aren't instantly apparent, we'll say. So the first one is crouching off of them gives you much more momentum than jumping off of them, and it enables you to preserve it better. So if I jump off of it, I'm basically just a rock in the air and I'm going straight down. If I crouch off it, I've got that little bit of forwards momentum with me. What you can also do is you can get the benefit of jumping off of the zip line, where you sort of keep that height initially. If you just crouch then jump, it doesn't even use stamina. I don't know if that'll be changed later on, But that's how it works currently. And what this enables us to do is things like get this height by only using 1 stamina, and then that's one of our rotates that we'll cover in a moment. And of course, the other key importance with ziplines is you can crouch and dash off of them to give you some faster rotates still. Let me just get my base move speed to fall back down to normal. Okay. So if we crouch and dash off, then we can use a wall bounce and a well-timed air dash. All of a sudden, our rotate into lane is now in a much more aggressive position. If you're a strong hero and you want that sort of positioning, you can do that with a simple crouch off the zipline and dash towards a surface to wall bounce off of, etc. That's something that should be quite familiar to you if you've played the game for a while now. But it's just important to note as it is relevant for how to rotate as quickly as possible throughout the map. Okay, so for this section of the video, we're going to go through all the rotates that you can do on the map. I'm going to do them all with no items and base 3 stamina. You can do them with 2 stamina, but it does get a bit touch and go, and you do have to be quite precise with it. And realistically, extra stamina is almost a must-buy on any character that has 2 stamina. So I'm just going to go ahead and do those rotates now. So whilst we're going through these rotates here, I'm just going to voice over and highlight some key things to think about. That first rotate is nice and simple, nothing really to highlight. Look at the bottom right for the keys if you are confused. This one here, like we touched on, you're just using that crouch and jump technique to get over that first little ledge. And then it's just a case of using as little stamina as you need to make sure that you get to where you want to go, so that when you're there, you're ready to fight. This one, nice and simple, crouch and dash, little air jump, slide into the vent, and another air jump. And then from here, we can make decisions about where we're going next. For example, rotating over to the right lane. So we did have to cut, because unfortunately, this took me 2 attempts on this rotate. It's easily the hardest one I'm showing here. Okay, so that's all of our rotates. Like I say, we didn't need any items for those to make sure that they're achievable. Okay, so how we're going to do this rotate with superior stamina is we're going to come through past this walker, dash here, wall bounce, dash again, and then if you have a warp stone, that'll make it even quicker. Like I said, this is a minor speed difference. Effectively, this gets you here about 1 second quicker than going through the base. And using these windows are really underutilized currently by pretty much everybody. They do offer a nice little benefit, because what happens with these ziplines is if you're trying to attach to a point on it, sometimes it will force you to a point a little bit further back, and that's especially true closer to the base. So if I go like this and I'm trying to touch on here, see how I get pushed backwards, and I actually end up attaching right around here when I was looking over here. So that's a really common issue with using them in the base, and we can circumvent that by just doing a little dash and coming through these windows. With superior stamina, it's a little bit awkward because you jump a little bit higher, so just bear that in mind. Yeah, these are really simple tweaks we can make to rotate faster. That's about it for rotates. So there we have it. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video. It is an essentials advanced movement guide. It's not going to be all encompassing, and you're going to find that there may be even little things that I've done in this video that I've not touched on. The reason for that is because I think with what I have touched on, it gives you a really good core fundamentals for your next steps in terms of improving your movement. Once you're really comfortable with everything I've discussed here, sort of increasing your proficiency with zip lines and wall bounces, and looking at starting to incorporate some corner boosting as means of escaping and getting different angles and what have you, then you will find that all of a sudden some of the people you're playing into simply cannot follow you whilst you're running around and escaping, etc. So I'm going to let these clips run out, have a think about what I've discussed and where I'm using it. You can see that I'm not just spamming fancy techniques all the time. There's lots of simple dash jumping for forwards momentum to keep up with enemies, or for example using wall bounces just to stay up in the air so it's harder for people to aim at you. It's just really simple things like that that are the most effective. So all we have to do is just try and use a corner boost here and there, an air strafe, or maybe just a melee to give you that extra bit of distance, and make sure that it's something that's really comfortable for you, and that's going to be the best. Thank you very much for watching. If you did get this far, like, comment, subscribe just to boost it in the algorithm would be greatly appreciated. Thank you again. Take care.